In this part of the tutorial, I would like to highlight tasks, consequences and dangers of embarking on surveys. Designing and executing a survey is a complicated and time-consuming task, a task that requires awareness and in-depth knowledge of multiple issues, including questionnaire design, sampling, measurement and multivariate analysis of statistical data. Compared to collecting qualitative data, surveys carry high risk because you only get one chance to get it right, and there is no way you can correct your errors once you send the questionnaires. There is nothing fast about developing a survey, and I cringe when I hear colleagues, admittedly mostly qualitative researchers, who comment to have embarked on a quick survey. In most cases, to develop a survey will take about a year, and there are few shortcuts. In this tutorial, I will highlight some of the challenges and tasks involved. Let us start with the tasks that lead to the development of survey. You tend to start by having a very strong theoretical model, which serves as a basis of the survey instrument and the starting point to your questionnaire development. You then develop an approach to data collection that involves decision on sampling and survey administration method. All these choices are dictated in part by the constraints, for example, availability of resources or time, but also by disciplinary traditions, that is, techniques that typically apply within your field of research. What do I mean by a theoretical model? Here is an example of a model based on Bagozzi's study published in Journal of Marketing in 1980. Bagozzi was interested in the determinants of salesperson performance and suggested that performance is a result of satisfaction, self-esteem and verbal intelligence, and that satisfaction depends in turn on salesperson motivation. By today's standards, this is a very simple model involving just 5 theoretical concepts or constructs: motivation, satisfaction, performance, verbal intelligence and self-esteem. Your model, or the model in your PhD, will be much more complicated, involving more concepts. When you create a model, you have to provide an overall rationale that puts the concepts together. So you have to have a theory that dictates the choice of particular concepts and exclusion of others. Developing a model is not only a question of addition, you have to also be very careful about what you exclude and provide strong arguments that explain why you are not including certain constructs. Development of a good theoretical model takes a long time. What do I mean by operationalization? Every construct within model has to be carefully defined to identify what is being measured. The definition has to be accompanied by sets of questions that measure the construct, and the sets of questions had to be considered valid and reliable. Typically, sets of questions are called scales, and typically these are drawn from previous studies to ensure that they are valid and reliable. You very rarely come up with new sets, and when you do come up with new sets of questions, then you have to go into complicated procedures of defending those new scales. Here is an example of operationalization based on Bagozzi's model. In this instance, we have a construct called satisfaction, which is measured with 4 items or questions. Can you see them? V1 to V4. We use scales, that is, sets of questions, rather than single indicator variables, to ensure internal reliability. In other words, to ensure that we are measuring well what we are supposed to be measuring. Each concept within a model will include its own sets of questions or scale, and these questions are then put into questionnaires. Because management models tend to be large and complicated, the questionnaires that accompany PhD dissertations in management tend to be long and frequently include 100 questions or more. Beyond finding existing scales, defining and operationalizing constructs, there are other tasks to be considered. For example, questions may need to be adapted to your setting and adjusted depending on what it is that you are trying to measure and how you want to measure it. Decisions have to be made about the precise nature of measurement, for example, how you want to measure particular variables and what scales you want to use and what rating points to apply. We do not have time to go into details here, but potential problems related to response bias or method variance are just a few issues that cause trouble in measurement. Thinking about the content of your questionnaire, we tend to include two types of things. You've already heard me talking about constructs, that is, abstract phenomena that are derived from theory, such as satisfaction, competitive advantage. Thinking about questionnaire content, we can include two types of things that we measure. I've already mentioned constructs, that is, abstract phenomena that are derived from some theory, such as satisfaction, motivation, or competitive advantage. Constructs typically constitute the bulk of your theoretical model. In addition, questionnaires also frequently include quasi-facts or more tangible questions that can be more clearly or objectively identified. For example, demographic details of respondents or how many hours they work per week include such quasi-facts. Importantly, different measurement theories and different approaches to measurement apply to constructs versus quasi-facts, and with regard to the latter, for example, a whole body of research concerns attitude measurement as one type of construct measurement. A separate issue concerns also the levels of measurement and their implication for multivariate analysis of data. Levels of measurement range from nominal, where the numbers are just indicative of differences. For example, gender is a nominal construct where you have male and female measured on a nominal scale. Your nationality or your level of education are also nominal constructs. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you'll find ratio scales, which can be very precise. For example, your income can be measured from 0 to infinity, and zero income means exactly that, not having any. The type of scale directly influences the type of analysis that you may or may not carry out on your findings, and you'll have to have a good appreciation of multivariate analysis of data to understand these implications and avoid errors. Considering scales, there is a multitude of formats that you may use, and here is one example of Likert type scales, statements anchored with strongly agree, strongly disagree, which are very popular in marketing in particular. Likert scales are just one type, and there are a great many others, including metric scales, the ones that can be analyzed using conventional multivariate analysis, and non-metric scales, where it is not possible or very tricky to use multivariate analysis. I have provided some examples here. For example, semantic differential scales are found in attitudinal research, and these are anchored with contrasting adjectives such as courteous or discourteous, friendly and unfriendly in this example. We have rank order scales where you are asking respondents to rank items. You can also use a constant sum types of scale where the respondent allocate points to categories, or graphic rating where quite precise measure may be drawn by asking respondents to tick their response on a line. I would like to reiterate once more that designing and executing surveys is a science, and for a survey to be successful, i.e. publishable in high-quality academic journal, multiple facets of validity, reliability and other aspects of quality have to be right. I have hinted on things that may go wrong, but many of potential traps are left out of this presentation. For example, I haven't talked about mixing and matching questions to avoid response bias, or deciding on the length of the scale and how that influences subsequent analysis. I have also not addressed the question of error and accuracy, which we will come back to in a session of the assessment of quality. I'll see you then. Bye.